Good morning and welcome to Rising. Robbie, I have no idea what we're going to do today. How's this show going to be?
Oh, we're going to have a show?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Here we go.
Well, we can read off of this thing. So
we're going to read. We'll see what it says. Brianna Joy Gray will unpack AOC's warning for Democrats over midterms. Just kidding. We have this on lock. We know exactly what we're doing. Reporter Alex Thompson will also discuss his investigation of President Biden's science advisors and their financial ties to a Google billionaire. But before we get to all that, so during an interview with John Solomon on Just the News, former President Trump called on Russian President Vladimir Putin to release information regarding alleged dealings between Russian oligarchs and Hunter Biden. I would also call on him to stop the invasion of Ukraine, maybe, if we're just calling on him to do things.
You've got an open line, yeah.
Just this week, the Wall Street Journal reported that the federal tax investigation into Hunter Biden is gaining steam as prosecutors in Delaware seek information and grand jury testimony.
Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, Congressman Matt Gaetz brought up the now infamous laptop during a cross-examination with the FBI's assistant director for FBI Cyber. Let's watch.
Well, you've talked about passwords here. I mean, Hunter Biden's password on his laptop was Hunter02. He drops it off at a repair store. I'm holding the receipt from Max Computer Repair, where in December 2019, they turned over this laptop to the FBI. And what now you're telling me right here is that as the assistant director of FBI Cyber, you don't know where this is after it was turned over to you 3 years ago.
Yes, sir, that's an accurate statement.
How are Americans supposed to trust that you can protect us from the next colonial pipeline if it seems that you can't locate a laptop that was given to you 3 years ago from the first family, potentially creating vulnerabilities for our country?
Sir, it's not in the purview of my investigative responsibilities.
After Gaetz continued to question the director, the exchange ended like this.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After a consultation with majority staff, I seek unanimous consent to enter into the record of this committee content from, files from, and copies from the Hunter Biden laptop.
Without objection.
Thank you. Yield back.
Well, that's interesting because what does that mean? Does that mean that the public can now, through the congressional record, access everything?
I think you just said contents of it, right? So it's just like putting on the record what has already been reported. I don't know. I have no idea.
Because there's a lot in it that hasn't been reported.
Right? We'd like to know. We'd like to take a look.
Through it. I guess we can go check the congressional record.
I guess we'll check.
It's an interesting tech question of what the public would have access to at this
Matt Gaetz,
point.
I assume it's just kind of like grandstanding with no point, but maybe
sometimes, but sometimes he can be subversive in real ways. So I don't know. We'll see.
I like his opinions on some things. Some things.
If he shakes it up, you got to respect that. I mean, you don't have to respect that.
What do we make of this claim that a Russian oligarch's wife, the former mayor of what Russian city?
Moscow.
She is alleged to have donated $3 million, given $3 million to a company, but it's not clear if that company is connected to Hunter Biden. It has a slightly different name than what we know is connected to Hunter Biden, and his attorneys have denied it, but it looks very sus, as the kids would say.
His lawyers previously said that this company, which was Seneca Rosemont Thornton, was different than Seneca Rosemont Advisors, but there's evidence that it's all the same people. And so his lawyer has said, well, Hunter wasn't involved with that company.
Right.
What does Hunter's involvement with a company mean? I mean, is Hunter joining the Zooms? Is Hunter on the conference calls?
Probably not.
Not exactly.
It's for the last name.
They're emailing Hunter. Can you get this to the right person?
Right.
Because people will read your email. People will listen to your text. So, there are investigations underway, like you said, into Hunter's finances, and so it takes a higher level of forensic accounting than we're necessarily capable of just here in the chairs to figure out exactly what his connection was. But from a distance, it's all the same people and a bunch of different company names. And that company did get this $3.5 million consulting agreement from the wife of the Moscow mayor. Trump himself, of course,
sought to do business in Russia many times.
And Moscow, and I think with the same mayor.
Right.
And now he's asking Putin to clear it all up. and which also shows that there's still some open questions about it. So maybe the grand jury can subpoena Putin, and we'll finally get to the bottom of this once Putin's finished with his warmongering.
This is the urgent thing.
It is a fascinating point that Trump's interactions with Putin so far have been to say it was a genius move.
Help me out.
And then help me out again with give me some more dirt on Hunter Biden. Because that's what he was lacking, a little dirt on Hunter Biden.
There you go. All right, let's get into some updates from Ukraine. Yesterday, Russia announced they would scale back military operations near Kyiv as the outlines of a possible deal to a ceasefire became more tangible next steps at the latest round of negotiations. Ukraine has laid out a framework for declaring itself neutral and its security would be guaranteed by other nations, which was received positively by the Russians. However, the announcement to cut back military activity near Ukraine's capital was met with skepticism from the U.S. Rightly so. We're now hearing reports of new attacks on the outskirts of Kyiv and northern city of Chernihiv, two areas that the Kremlin vowed to reduce combat operations around. This comes as the U.S. and allies ready for more sanctions in efforts to erode Russian supply chains, while the Deputy U.S. Treasury Secretary said, quote, in addition to sanctioning companies in sectors that enable the Kremlin's malign activities, we also plan to disrupt their critical supply chains. So they haven't actually stopped attacking Kyiv.
Well, so what several analysts said was that if they withdraw, and there actually is some evidence that they are physically moving back, and if they did that they would be shelling the entire time while they did that. Like basically covering their own retreat, which is a pretty standard form of retreat, which the Russians and their defenders don't want to refer to it as a retreat. It's being played up as this. It was an extremely clever diversion.
Right.
They just created a 65-kilometer traffic jam of their own material, so that everybody would be distracted from their invasion over in Donbass, which never made sense to me because they have a big enough military and Ukraine is a weak enough military that if they just wanted to invade the Donbass, which they effectively control already, they could have done that without, a smaller country needs diversionary tactics against bigger countries. Bigger countries don't have to trick littler countries. Bigger countries just smash littler countries. That's how that works. But so it does actually appear that there's some regrouping and retreating going on. I think the bigger question is whether it's voluntary or whether it was kind of forced on them by a defense that was unexpectedly robust.
Right, and by difficulties in supplying, feeding, etc., their own troops, which we know they're having tremendous difficulty with.
The Ukrainians kept saying they can only do this for 2 more weeks. They can only do this for another week. They can only do this for 3 days because they're running out of food, they're running out of fuel, they're running out of ammunition. A lot of their people are dying, and roughly on that timeline, now Russia is saying, okay, we're going to strategically reallocate our resources elsewhere. So it does back up what the Ukrainians were saying, that they can't maintain this this traffic jam forever.
Right. Although I guess the people on the other, or people inclined to make contrary arguments, say, well, no, this is just Russia doing exactly what they said they were going to do because their goal was never to take control of the country. So that's the other argument. I don't really buy that argument. But
there you go. We'll hash it out with Kim later.
We'll hash it out with Kim.
He'll be on later. But next,
our radars. Stick around.